Prepare to embark on a chilling journey into South Carolina's naval history, where spectral sailors still man their posts. The USS Yorktown, a legendary aircraft carrier docked at Patriots Point in Charleston, is widely regarded as one of America's most haunted ships. With a history spanning World War II and the Vietnam War, many crew members lost their lives aboard its decks. Today, visitors and staff frequently report intense paranormal activity, including disembodied voices echoing through empty compartments, phantom footsteps clanging on metal decks, flickering lights, and apparitions of sailors still on duty, forever bound to their ship of steel.
This happened last summer on vacation. I still don't know who brought that umbrella, or if anyone ever did. My family rented a beach house in South Carolina near Folly Beach. It wasn't a resort or anything, just a quiet strip of sand with some private access. The house came with everything: beach chairs, boogie boards, towels, even a couple umbrellas. We had the whole week to relax. That Monday morning, we set up early. Me, my wife, our 8-year-old daughter, and her older brother. We brought one umbrella, one cooler, and 2 folding chairs from the house. Same setup we'd used the day before. We were on a quiet part of the beach, maybe half a mile from the pier. Only a few other families in the distance. Nothing but sand, breeze, and the occasional jogger. Around noon, I got up to grab a drink from the cooler. That's when I noticed something strange. The towels had been moved. Nothing drastic, just shifted. My daughter's flip-flops were facing the wrong way. A juice pouch had been unzipped and left on top of the cooler instead of inside. I figured maybe she'd been looking for something and forgot to zip it up. No big deal. Then my wife asked, "Where did that umbrella come from?" I turned. There was a second umbrella behind us, maybe 10 feet away, tilted at an angle, casting a thin patch of shade across the back of our setup. It wasn't there when we arrived. It wasn't one of ours, and none of the other nearby beachgoers were missing one. We stared at it for a minute. Blue and white stripes, the kind with a metal pole and a soft canopy. Looked a little older than the one we brought. My son said maybe someone left it. We checked. No towels, no cooler, no footprints leading to it, just an umbrella, standing on its own. I bent down to look at the base. The sand around the pole was packed tightly. Too tightly, like it had been placed hours ago, before the tide shifted. I asked my wife again, "Are you sure that wasn't there when we sat down?" She shook her head. Absolutely. Later in the afternoon, we packed up. My wife and I folded our umbrella and gathered the towels. I told my son to stay close as we loaded everything back into the cart. The second umbrella, gone, no sign of it. No drag marks, no pole. Just flat, undisturbed sand where it had stood. I didn't say anything, but I took one last look over my shoulder as we left the beach. A woman stood far down the shore, near the dunes, holding the umbrella. Same one, same blue and white stripes. She was facing our direction. I squinted, trying to make out her face, but she was too far, too still. That night, I dreamed about her. Not a nightmare, just a single image. Her standing at the foot of the bed, holding the umbrella closed, dripping wet onto the carpet. I woke up gasping, told myself it was stress. Sunday, dehydration. The next day, we went to a different part of the beach, closer to the pier, busier, safer. But while setting up, my daughter froze and pointed inland. "She's here." I followed her finger. There, tucked between 2 sand dunes, was the woman again, still holding the umbrella, still watching. I grabbed our stuff, told my wife we were heading back to the house. I didn't care if it cut the day short. Back at the rental, I checked the backyard. No one. That night, the wind howled hard enough to shake the windows. In the morning, we found an umbrella on the back porch. same colors, same tilt, folded shut, leaning against the door. We packed up and left a day early. I still don't know who she was. But last week, my daughter came into our room with a new drawing. "Look, Dad, I drew the beach lady." She held it up. And in the corner, scribbled in crayon, was the umbrella. Open, and someone lying underneath it. My summer job was easy, until the ropes started moving. I worked overnight maintenance at a small marina off the South Carolina coast, mostly checking locks, sweeping walkways, and logging equipment. The boats were all dry docked for off-season repairs, so the docks were empty after sundown. Quiet, peaceful even. My shifts were solo, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. I liked it that way, just me, the salt air, and the hum of the office fridge. Until the third week, when the ropes started showing up. The first one was draped across the main hallway floor, thick, salt-stiffened anchor rope. It stretched from the break room door to the wall opposite. I almost tripped on it, coming back from checking the electrical box. I looked around. No one. I coiled it up and placed it outside near the supply shed. Made a note in the log. The next night, another rope, different spot. This one curled in a tight figure 8 pattern right in front of the office bathroom. Damp. Smelled like brine and algae. I checked every boat and shed. Nothing was missing. I asked the marina supervisor the next day if someone else might be dropping stuff off late. He said no one had clearance past 8 p.m. Besides, he said, all that rope should still be stored in the sail shed. No one's touched it since spring. I asked if the security cams worked. He shook his head. A storm took him out last month. Haven't replaced him yet. Of course. The third night, I found not just a rope, but wet boot prints, leading from the dock entrance to the break room. I followed them to the back door, locked from the inside, just like I left it. I stood in the hallway, surrounded by salt-stained footprints and twisted rope. It smelled like open water, deep water. Then I heard a sound from the office closet. 3 slow knocks from the inside. I didn't open it, I just backed away, heart slamming in my chest, and left the building. I called the supervisor, told him someone was breaking in. He checked the footage from the outer motion detector, just audio, no video. From 3:17 a.m., it recorded one sound. Something heavy being dragged across the floor. We changed the locks the next day. I came in that night to grab my things. Sitting on my desk was a soaked section of rope, neatly coiled, with a scrap of paper pinned under it. In thick, wet ink, it read, "You are next." I quit before they could ask me to finish the week. 2 days later, they found seaweed clogging the office air vent. The closest ocean water? A quarter-mile away. I worked at a golf resort in South Carolina. Cart 44 should have been junked years ago, but it kept coming back. I was part of the late shift crew, landscaping cleanup, restocking clubhouse towels, locking up carts after the golfers were gone. The resort had over 60 golf carts, all neatly numbered, all stored in rows behind the main building. Every cart had a key that stayed in a locked cabinet inside. Cart 44 had been retired before I started. It was on a service report dated 3 years back. Brake failure, electrical issues, body damage. The report even showed a disposal confirmation. I asked my boss about it once, and he said, "Scrapped after that accident by the lake. Total loss." But about 2 weeks ago, I found it parked outside the guest suites. No key, just sitting there, facing room 117. I figured maybe the number had been reused. Sometimes old decals fade and new ones are misread. But when I walked up to it, the number was unmistakable. White paint, large, clear, 44. I went back to the shed, checked the cabinet. No key for 44, no new record for it being reassigned. I asked maintenance. They all swore the cart had been junked. We stripped it down and tossed the frame, one of them said. Next night, it was parked in a different spot, still facing room 117. Guest reports came in too. Someone complained that a cart kept idling near their room at night, but security never caught anything. The weirdest part? Room 117 was unoccupied that week. I walked over one evening and checked it myself, just to be sure. No lights on, no bags, no guests. Still, the cart was always pointed toward it. By night 5, I was spooked. I snapped a photo of the cart, sent it to my boss, and asked what to do. He just replied, "Where did you find that? That cart's gone, it shouldn't exist." The next day, cart 44 was gone again. But that night, I walked past room 117 and found tire tracks in the grass. Right up to the window, no footprints, just tire tracks. I shined my flashlight inside the cart shed. There, in the back corner, was cart 44, covered in dust, spiderwebs on the wheels, like it hadn't moved in years. I haven't seen it since. But room 117's new guest checked out early this morning. She left a note with the front desk. "Whoever's driving around in that cart at 3 a.m. needs to stop. I swear this happened." To this day, I don't know if it was a prank, a dream, or something I was never meant to see. Last October, I drove down to South Carolina for a work conference. The company booked everyone into a small beachside motel. Not fancy, just rows of 2-story rooms with faded paint and humming neon. My check-in was late, close to 11 p.m. after a long drive. The desk clerk looked half asleep but handed me a key card and said, "Room 209, second floor, far end." I hauled my bag up the outdoor stairs, the ocean wind cutting through the gaps in the railing. The hallway lights flickered the way cheap fluorescents always do. The carpet was damp from salt air, crunching under my shoes. When I got to the far end, I found 207, then 208, and then a blank wall. Number 209. I stood there for a good minute, confused. I even walked back down the hall, double-checked the numbers. 205, 206, 207, 208. Then nothing but a concrete wall and a fire extinguisher cabinet. I figured the clerk must have mixed up the room number, so I went back down. But when I reached the lobby, the desk was empty. Bell on the counter, no one around. I didn't feel like waiting, so I thought maybe 209 was on the opposite side of the building. I walked the other wing. Same thing, numbers stopped at 208. Back at the end of the first hall, I leaned against the wall where 209 should have been. Out of frustration, I knocked. Hollow, not solid concrete, but hollow, like drywall. That's when I noticed the fire extinguisher cabinet was set slightly off-center. I tugged at the handle. The glass didn't shatter. The door just swung open. Behind it wasn't a hose or extinguisher, but a narrow, dark gap. Just enough space to slip through. I should have turned around right there. But curiosity won. I squeezed inside. The air changed instantly. Damp, moldy, and colder than outside. A short hallway stretched out, unlit except for a faint glow ahead. It looked like the kind of hallway hotels use for maintenance access. Pipes overhead, exposed wires. At the end of it, a door, numbered 209. My keycard beeped green. The room was ordinary at first: bed, desk, old floral curtains, a TV bolted to the wall. Except everything felt wrong. The wallpaper peeled in long strips. The carpet smelled like mildew, and the sound of the ocean, so loud outside, was completely gone in here. I dropped my bag and sat on the bed. Springs sagged like no one had stayed there in years. That's when I noticed the notepad on the nightstand. Motel branded, cheap paper. Someone had scrawled across the top sheet in shaky handwriting. don't stay in this room. My stomach dropped. I checked the bathroom. Rust-stained sink, cracked mirror, a bathtub with a dripping faucet. No one inside. I went back to the bed and tried to laugh it off. Probably a joke some drunk guest left behind, until the TV clicked on by itself. Static, full volume. I scrambled for the remote, but there wasn't one. I pulled the plug from the wall. The screen stayed on. And in the static, just for a second, I thought I saw the outline of a face. That was enough. I grabbed my bag, yanked open the door, and the hallway was gone. Instead, there was only another room. Identical layout, different wallpaper, bed already made, as if waiting. I stepped backward, heart pounding. The door slammed shut behind me. Now, both rooms were silent. No ocean, no hum of motel lights, just a heavy, pressing stillness. I didn't know what else to do, so I bolted for the curtains and ripped them open. Behind the glass wasn't the parking lot. It was the hallway I had come from, the one with peeling pipes and bare wires. Only this time, it stretched impossibly far in both directions, fading into darkness. And in that darkness, faint shapes shifted, moving closer. I shoved the window open and climbed out. The floor below was much farther down than it should have been. My feet hit with a jolt of pain. Somehow, I was outside, back on the pavement near the stairwell. I looked up. No window where I jumped from. Just the blank wall of the motel, no room 209. I didn't go back to the lobby, didn't argue. I got in my car and drove 2 towns over, paid cash for another motel, slept with the lights on. The next day, I swung back to check, just to be sure I wasn't losing my mind. I walked the hallway in full daylight. Same as before. 207, 208, then wall. But the fire extinguisher cabinet? It was gone, bolted drywall in its place, seamless. I tried asking the front desk clerk, different guy this time, if there had ever been a room 209. He gave me a puzzled look. "Sir, this building ends at 208, always has." I didn't argue, just nodded and walked out. But here's the part I can't shake. When I finally got home unpacking my bag, I found the motel notepad. Same logo, same cheap paper. And on the top sheet, fresh handwriting. "See you again soon." I never believed a storage unit could feel lived in, like it had a routine, a mood, a way of noticing you. But Unit 312 did. I rented it last summer just outside Charleston, after my landlord sold the duplex and gave us 30 days to move. We stuffed half our life into boxes, baby clothes we were not ready to let go of, an old desk I swore I'd refinish, plastic bins of cables I'd never sort. My wife wanted a climate-controlled place because of the photos, and a couple of quilts that belonged to her grandmother. We found a newer facility behind a strip mall off Highway 17. Clean hallways, rolling carts by the door, keypad entry. The manager was a quiet guy with a South Carolina flag tattoo on his forearm and a habit of ending every sentence with "yes ma'am" or "sir," whether you earned it or not. He assigned us 312. 3rd floor, far end of the main corridor. "It's a good one. Corner unit," he said, "less foot traffic." The first time I noticed something off was just little. We'd stacked our boxes so the labels faced out. I'm that person. I even took a photo so I could remember what was where. 2 days later, I swung by after work to drop a duffel bag of winter clothes. The photo on my phone showed a column of bins with "kitchen, fragile" at the top. Inside the unit, that bin was on the bottom. Only that column was different. Everything else matched. The scuffed black suitcase on the left, the long plastic tote marked "garden," my guitar case perched precariously like a booby trap. I figured maybe I'd stacked it wrong and misremembered. I moved the fragile bin back up top and shut the door. The next week, we did a bigger drop. My wife carried a banker's box of photos and graduation keepsakes. I brought in the old desk, separated into 2 wobbly pieces. We pushed everything against the right wall to leave a little walking aisle. I locked up. Click, tug, like always. On Saturday morning, I went back alone with coffee and my best intentions about the desk. When I rolled up the door, I stood there staring so long the overhead light timed out and clicked off. Our aisle was gone. The boxes hugged both walls, leaving a narrow corridor straight down the middle, like someone had rearranged the entire unit to create a path to the back. It even curved around the desk pieces, so nothing blocked the way. I turned the light back on, checked the lock. It was mine. Same little brass padlock from the facility. My initials scratched near the keyhole. The door had been secure. There was no sign of forced entry. The only thing new was on the floor just inside, a dried smear of what looked like swamp mud, dark greenish-brown, with tiny bits of grass in it. I told myself a maintenance guy must have had a reason to be in there, maybe an inspection. I went downstairs to the office. The manager looked up from his laptop slow, like his neck hurt. "Anyone need to get into 312? I asked. He blinked. "No, sir." "Because things were moved, the whole unit. Did you put someone else on the access list?" "No." He checked the screen. "Only you and your wife. Doors, timestamp. You were here Tuesday at 6:42 p.m. No one since." I told him about the mud. He frowned, then shrugged like maybe some stuck to a cart. "You want me to walk up with you?" he offered. "I can make a note." We went back up together. He stood at the door, hands on his hips, like a contractor about to explain why everything costs more. He peered inside, then took 2 careful steps into the narrow aisle. "Looks tidy," he said. "Tidy isn't the problem." He leaned down and rubbed the dried smear with his thumb. It flaked off like old paint. He grimaced. "We mop every morning," he said, which wasn't really an answer. "Can you check the cameras?" He finally nodded. "I can pull the hall footage, but the unit itself, privacy and all." We went back downstairs. He scrubbed through a timeline while I stood there sweating into my coffee lid. The monitor showed empty white hallways stamping time. My Tuesday entry, my exit, nothing else. "See?" he said. "Nobody." On the drive home, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You shouldn't block the door." I asked who it was. No reply. I told myself it was a wrong number. I told myself a lot of things. The 3rd time, I took my brother, big guy, eager to help as long as there's a chance to make fun of me later. We brought a dresser for the baby's room we hadn't set up yet. I rolled up 312 and felt my stomach go cold. Everything had been moved again. Not just adjusted, staged. On the left, our boxes stacked in 4 perfect towers by size. On the right, the desk pieces now flush against the wall, drawers neatly lined on top. The banker's box of photos sat dead center on the floor, lid off, as if someone had been going through it. One of my wife's childhood pictures, a school portrait with a crooked headband, lay on top of the pile. Her name was written on the back in her mother's neat script. The ink faded to a soft brown. "Dude," my brother said quietly. He doesn't say "dude" quietly often. He pointed to the back wall. A small metal coat hook had been screwed into the drywall. One hook, right at shoulder height, where nothing had been before. Hanging from it was a cheap plastic key tag, the kind realtors use, red with a little paper window. In block letters, someone had written, "Return the padlock." We backed out the way people back out of rooms with snakes, slow, not turning our backs, like distance would protect us. I pulled the door down. We both put our hands on it for a second, like holding it closed with our palms was going to do anything. "What the hell?" my brother said finally. "Want to go get the manager?" I almost did, But instead, I took my phone out and snapped a photo of the door, the number stenciled on the metal, the padlock, the tiny web clinging to the latch. Then I snapped a photo of my key. "Why the padlock?" my brother asked as we walked for the elevator. "No idea." We got to the office. The manager wasn't there. Handwritten note on the counter. Back at 3:15, it was 3:06. My brother bought a soda from the machine, and I pressed my forehead to the cool window like that would help. At 3:14, the door chimed and the manager came in from the hallway, not the parking lot. He looked surprised to see us, then a little embarrassed. "Sorry, folks," he said. "Had to check something on the 3rd. "On the 3rd?" I asked. "Different wing," he said quickly, then cleared his throat. "What can I do for you?" I told him about the hook, the key tag. He held up his hands. "We don't add fixtures inside units. Liability." He rubbed at the flag tattoo like it itched. "I can log it," he said finally. "We can also swap you to a different space if you want." "That would help," I said. He turned to his computer. We got a 118 open on the 1st. "What about another 3rd floor corner?" my brother asked. "Same layout?" The manager's mouth did a flat line. "Corners are all taken," he said without checking. Something about the way he said it, the speed, the practiced finality made me ask, "Has anyone else complained about 312? He shook his head too fast. "No, sir." That night, my wife asked me to stop bringing it up. Not because she didn't believe me, but because she did, and because we couldn't afford to care. "We're out in 3 weeks," she said. "Let it be weird for 3 weeks." I tried. 2 days later, I went back to get her photo box. If someone was messing with anything, it wasn't going to be her childhood. I parked under the yellow sodium light and rode the empty elevator up. The hallway smelled like pine sol and dust. When I rounded the corner, I knew before I touched it that the door to 312 wasn't locked. The padlock hung from the latch, closed, but not through the hasp. Balancing. Waiting for me to notice. Inside, everything was orderly, the kind of tidy that takes time. The bin labels all facing out in clean rows. The banker's box of photos sealed with blue tape I didn't own. The desk drawers stacked like a staircase. The little coat hook sat empty now, the red tag gone. On the concrete floor near the threshold, there was a palm print. Not smeared, planted. 5 distinct fingers and a heel. A right hand, bigger than mine, marked in that same swamp-colored mud. It faced inward, like someone had pressed their hand there as they went in. I knelt to look closer. My phone buzzed. Unknown number again. I almost didn't check. Then I did, return the padlock. I don't know why I did what I did next. I reached up, slid the padlock through the hasp, and clicked it shut from the inside. A stupid, childish gesture, like proving I could. Then I laughed out loud because it felt ridiculous, heard my laugh echo around the unit, and didn't like how it sounded. The light flicked off. Motion sensor, I told myself. I waved an arm. Nothing. The air felt heavier, like standing in a closet too long. Behind me, on the roll-up door, something scraped slowly from top to bottom. A steady, patient drag of metal on metal. It didn't rattle, didn't bang, didn't test the lock. It just measured the height of the door. I stepped backward until my shoulder blades touched boxes. The scraping stopped. For a few seconds, I could hear nothing but my own breath. Then, low and close to the metal, something tapped. 1, 2, 3. I fumbled for my phone light and blasted it at the door seam. Dust motes swirled like gnats. No shadow, no feet. I swallowed hard and spoke to the person I hoped wasn't there. "Hey," my voice cracked. "We're calling the manager." Silence. Then, one more tap. I called my brother. He told me to hold the call up to the seam so he could hear if it's a person, which was such a dumb plan it helped. When I lifted the phone, I noticed a new text had come through. From my wife this time, a photo she'd just taken at home, our hallway closet, the cheap brass hook inside it. Hanging from the hook was a red plastic key tag, the same kind, same block letters. Return the padlock. She wrote, "Did you put this here?" I didn't answer. I unlocked the door from the inside, rolled it up, and stepped into the hall. No one was there. A draft drifted from the far stairwell. That was all. I moved fast. I took the banker's box, the guitar case, the 2 top bins with the quilts, the photo albums that would break my wife's heart if they were ruined. I loaded them onto a cart and pushed it hard enough the wheels sang. As I waited for the elevator, the hallway lights flickered once, the way they do on a timer. The metal door of 312 rattled. Not like someone pulled it, but like the building shifted. I stared at the number stenciled there and thought about how a number's just a way of pretending a thing stays where you put it. Downstairs, the manager was in his chair, shoulders hunched. He looked up, and I realized he'd been listening, like he could hear through the ducts. He opened his mouth, closed it, then said, almost softly, "You're not the first to move out fast, you know." I set the cart brake. "Who else? What is it with that unit?" He rubbed his forearm again, the flag tattoo whitening under his fingers. "You ever notice how corners get a little extra air?" he asked. "We had a roof leak over there once. Moisture can do strange things." He watched me the whole time he talked, like he hoped I'd take that for an answer. "Moisture writes messages now?" I asked. He flinched, only a little. "I can comp you a month on another unit," he said. "First floor, closer to the door." We took it. I moved what mattered to 118. We left the rest. Garden stuff, cables, the desk I was never going to refinish. I told myself we'd hire someone to grab it later. 2 nights after we closed out 312, my wife woke me up at 2:11 a.m. We were in the new apartment by then, boxes still stacked like city blocks. "Do you hear that?" she whispered. I held my breath. From the hallway closet, muted by drywall and our own heartbeat, came a single metallic click, like a small lock closing. I got out of bed, walked to the closet, opened the door, and stood there in my underwear, feeling stupid and brave in the worst proportions. The red key tag hung from the hook, swaying slightly as if someone had just brushed it. My initials were scratched near the edge of the tag's little paper window, in the same clumsy way they were on the old padlock. The paper inside the tag held a new message now. Same block letters, same steady hand. "Thank you." We never went back for the desk. A month later, I got a call saying the remaining contents of 3012 had been auctioned. Standard notice went out, the woman on the phone said. I never saw a notice. I didn't argue. Sometimes, if I'm in a new building and the air's colder in the corners, I'll touch the wall and check my palm. It's never muddy, it never is, but I still look, and every few weeks our hallway closet door will click in the middle of the night. Soft, like a polite reminder. I don't know who wanted that padlock returned or why it mattered. I don't know who rearranged our things so carefully, like a person making a path for themselves in a crowded room. I don't know what corners do to time, but I know this. When you roll down a metal door and tug the lock just to be sure, something might be tugging from the other side too. Not to get out, not even to get in, just to feel the click.